Darkcast Network, indie pods with a dark side. Hello, and welcome back to Fuck That. One quick thing before we get into the episode. I have a Patreon, F That Pod. There you can get all of my episodes. I archive and backlog my older episodes. I also put out bonus episodes, and I am planning a couple of live streaming events this summer. So check it out, patreon.com/fthatpod. Today, I'm going to be talking about the weirdest exclusive club that you've never been invited to, and you probably never will. Bohemian Grove. Imagine a secretive forest retreat where the world's power brokers swap their suits for robes and partake in rituals under the shadow of a massive owl statue. Yeah, you heard that right, massive owl statue. Think less summer camp and more eyes wide shut. If you haven't seen it, definitely check it out. It's fucking weird. Like this camp. So put on your tinfoil hat. I've got mine on today, and let's peek behind the curtain to see what the rich and powerful really get up to when they think the world isn't watching. Bohemian Grove is a private 2,700-acre campground located in Monte Rio, California, belonging to a private San Francisco-based gentlemen's club known as the Bohemian Club. Since its inception in 1872, the club has included some of the most powerful men in the world, including U.S. presidents, business leaders, and artists. In mid-July every year, the Bohemian Grove hosts a 2+ week-long summer camp that hosts some of the most influential men in the world. Sounds like my personal fucking hell. When the club was founded in 1872, it was founded by a group of journalists who wanted to promote a fellowship among men who enjoyed the arts. Early members included journalists, obviously, artists, musicians, and eventually it morphed into something different and started including more politicians and businessmen, likely to bring in more money. The first summer encampment, which I will elaborate on later, was held in 1878. As a simple social getaway, but it quickly evolved into an annual retreat that would eventually move to its current location in Monte Rio, California. This location was purchased when they came across a lot of money thanks to particular members, but they chose this location for its seclusion and natural beauty, ideal for escaping the hustle and bustle of city life. Harry Edwards, a stage actor that became a founding member, made the sad announcement in 1878 that he was moving to New York to further his career. On June 29th of 78, the sketchy group of 100 or so men that were members threw a bash in the Redwoods to send him off with a bang. The night went on, members drank, did whatever weird stuff they do in the shadows, and then tucked themselves into their cute little camp bunks when the night was through. The event was such a success that it continued the following year and every year after that. Hooray! Eventually, a San Francisco-based businessman took over the club, and he used his extreme wealth to get that land that I had mentioned and establish more facilities for the Grove. At this point, the club still maintained the Bohemians, which were the artists and musicians, but they then began to acquire more influential and powerful individuals, including several international guests. Fast forward to the 1940s, and Bohemian Grove became the hush-hush birthplace of the Manhattan Project's planning. Yes, nestled amongst those ancient redwoods, the blueprint for the fucking atomic bomb was being scribbled down. The guest list? A who's who of academia and industry with people like Ernest Lawrence and Oppenheimer mixing with the suits from Harvard, Yale, and Princeton, plus some Standard Oil and General Electric bigwigs. As time passes, the Grove's reputation as a shadow government HQ grew, with whispers of Nixon dissing the elite crowd in secret recordings and the occasional breaches by truth seekers and conspiracy hunters. But in spite of all of this, or maybe because of it, the Bohemian Grove still stands, a monument to exclusivity and questionable taste in leisurely activities. So, as the club's membership diversified to include these wealthy industrialists, politicians, and leaders across various sectors, the nature of the gatherings also changed. And what initially started as a retreat devoted to camaraderie and arts appreciation gradually incorporated a more structured list of talks, performances, and activities that reflected the interests and the affairs of its most influential members. I want to get into the layout of the Grove. Even though it sits on 2,700 acres of land, the main encampment only uses about 160 acres. There are camps that are scattered throughout the property where people sleep, and evidently these sleeping camps are where the friendships are formed between the uber-rich businessmen and crooked politicians, and it just sounds like such a fun slumber party. There are a bunch of notable camps, but I'm just going to share a few because they have ridiculous names like Silverado Squatters and Caveman. But additionally, the Grove has a few central locations where shit goes down, starting with the museum stage. And this is a semi-outdoor venue where lectures and small performances are held. There's a lot of performances that are held in many places. There is the dining circle, which seats 1,500 people to feast on the poor and drink the blood of their enemies, probably. The Grove Stage, a 2,000-seat amphitheater, which is used for the annual Grove Play production, which is held on the last weekend of the midsummer encampment. So then we've got the Campfire Circle, which is a campfire pit that is surrounded by carved redwood logs and where small, intimate performances are held. What fun! You have the Field Circle, an amphitheater used for Low Jinks, which is a musical comedy, and Spring Jinks, which is probably just another weird iteration of that performance I just mentioned. There's the Clubhouse, which is a multi-purpose area, if you will. Here, members can drink, eat, and this is actually where the planning of the Manhattan Project was held. And last, but certainly not least, the good old Owl Shrine, right by the artificial lake. And here, the ceremonious cremation of care, which I will get into later, takes place on the first Saturday of the annual encampment, as well as the lakeside talks that occur daily at 12:30. So, since the Bohemian Club is private, only active members and very select guests are able to visit the properties. But these guests aren't normal people. They almost always consist of politicians, members of government in foreign countries, etc. Members are able to invite guests to the Spring Jinks, which takes place in June, or the main encampment in July. But when there aren't any events going down at the Grove, members can use the club for private day-only events, and during that time, they can bring their family, friends, and children. However, women and minors have to be off the property by 9 p.m. because fuck them. Once someone has been a member for 40 years, they earn the status of Old Guard, which gives them super fancy reserved seating, as well as other perks that remain a secret. I don't really know if I want to know what those perks are, to be honest. Even though women aren't allowed to have full memberships, there have been 4 female honorary members that were allowed to go into the city club building, but only during the daytime, and they were restricted to the first floor and were not allowed to the main summer encampment because, again, fuck them. Obviously, for these, among many other reasons, the club was known to be a bit misogynistic, but the misogyny was highlighted in 2019 when a woman named Linda Hopkins, a member of the Sonoma County Board of Supervisors who was elected to the district where the Grove resided, wrote an open letter that critiqued the club. In the open letter, Linda highlighted the club's interference with elections, specifically preventing women from becoming elected, as well as their anarchistic philosophy that the club abides by. And Linda isn't wrong. The club, for lack of a better term, is really problematic. Their motto, "Weaving spiders come not here," sums up everything you need to know about how these people handle their business. Outside concerns are to be left outside of the Grove, and any political or business decisions made within the walls of the Grove occurs between members and in secret. And this is problematic because many important political decisions and business decisions that have had global impact were all made at the Grove. And again, this is all made possible by the high-profile members that have a lot of power. Some of the most notable members over the years have included Clint Eastwood, Henry Kissinger, Walter Cronkite, Richard Nixon, Ronald Reagan, Charles Schwab, Bret Hart, Mark Twain, and Jack London. One of the books that I read that I linked in the show notes stated that in the 1980s, there was actually a group called the Bohemian Grove Action Network. Love it. And they allegedly produced a list of members a few times. But the author states that he saw the list and personally had a copy of it. And on that list included George H.W. Bush, Dick Cheney, which honestly, that one tracks, Colin Powell. I'm a little bit less, I don't really know if I believe that one because, I don't know, there's a lot of rumors of racism with this club. They're rumors, but I don't know, that one doesn't track as much. And Arnold Schwarzenegger. Something funny that I came across when I was trying to find members, former and current members of this club, was a video of Bill Clinton. I don't know when this video was taken exactly. I am assuming during his presidency, as he doesn't look like he's clinging to life. But there was a heckler, if you will, in the audience when they were asking him questions. And they asked him about the Bohemian Club. And he said, quote, "The Bohemian Club? Did you say Bohemian Club? That's where all those rich Republicans go up and stand naked against redwood trees, right? I've never been to Bohemian Club, but you ought to go. It'd be good for you. You might get some fresh air." Absolutely savage. Obviously, because of all of these influential members and the need for secrecy, the Grove, they have to keep their powerful secrets protected, and thus they have a very robust security team that protects the premises all year round, even when there aren't any events taking place, which isn't sketchy at all. And since the elite Grovers have all of the money in the world at their disposal, they get to deck out their security team with thermal and night vision cameras, alarms that can sense vibrations, guns, etc. And when members are on site for the retreat or other events, security is ramped up. What's really strange is that not only does the local sheriff's office get involved, but so does California's Highway Patrol and even the Secret Service. I'm going to, later in the episode, be talking about conspiracy theories, and you'll understand why even more when I talk about their ceremonies, why there are conspiracy theories. But here's how I got started down this rabbit hole. I saw a TikTok of a former worker, a woman, and she was very cryptic, but implied that this place is just not good. They don't treat their employees well either, which I will also get into later in the episode. From there, I was really intrigued because I have never heard about this place before. So I started watching more TikToks of former employees and locals. Somebody said that there are snipers that man the perimeters. Whether that's true or not, I don't know. There's definitely a lot of chatter about that on the internet, but that I couldn't substantiate. But here's what I thought was super weird. There are thousands of videos on YouTube and on TikTok of curious people going around where Bohemian Grove is and going up to random normal people and asking them if they've ever heard about it. And everybody has, but they clearly look insanely uncomfortable when asked. Some people say that they were former workers, others just say they know of it. But there's one common trend between all of those videos. It's everybody looks insanely uncomfortable. And when the person that's recording the video asks what they know about it, they refuse to respond. A lot of people get really angry and walk away. It's super fucking weird. Maybe I shouldn't be recording this episode. I guess we'll just see what happens. So anyways, I went down this rabbit hole and started researching this. And then 2 or 3 weeks ago, I went to the theaters and saw Late Night with the Devil. If you haven't seen that movie yet and you plan on it, skip ahead like a minute or two because I'm going to talk about a spoiler at the end of the movie. If you've seen the movie and you get to the end, if you didn't get this in the beginning, I went with my friend, "Hey, Chris, so sorry." And I am a dirtbag to see movies with because I can typically figure out what's going to go down. If it's, I don't know. I didn't think this movie was great. Everybody loved it. I nailed everything that was going to happen in the first 5 minutes and then told my friend, who was like, shut up. So I knew that he made some kind of sacrifice to have fame. And when I saw that his wife was dying of cancer, I was like, this dude totally sold his soul to the devil, which meant his wife is going to die a brutal death from cancer so that his late night show would not continue to go down the shitter. So at the end, this is confirmed. And throughout the movie, you see these weird people dressed up. It happens on Halloween, but there are people dressed up in the audience, like one guy with a skeleton mask, which we'll talk about later. Another person's dressed as like an owl. And then at the end, they show him at this weird ceremony with an owl statue doing some kind of ritual. And then I was like, holy fuck, that is a nod to this ceremony that I'm about to talk about. So what happens this is my long-winded way of saying what happens at Bohemian Grove that we know of is used in a lot of horror and fiction. And I thought it was cool. All right, so now let's talk about the really weird shit. So every July, the club hosts a 2-week men-only encampment. And the gathering is meant to allow these influential men to unwind and mingle away from the public eye. But the activities that have been reported range from artistic performances to talks on major policy issues to fake sacrifices. One of the most talked about aspects of the Grove is the opening event called the Cremation of Care, where members participate in a theatrical production involving a hopefully mock sacrifice in front of a large statue of an owl, which symbolizes wisdom. It's meant to symbolize the shedding of worries and stress before entering the retreat. But it has also fueled a lot of speculation and conspiracy theories about what the ritual represents. Because why wouldn't it? The broad overview of the Cremation of Care ceremony is these politicians and very important figureheads go, and they dress like fucking wizards. They literally wear like wizard robes, and they burn an effigy in front of this weird giant owl that has speakers inside of it, so it can talk or make weird sounds or ask you how many licks it takes to get to the center of a Tootsie Roll Pop. That is the broad overview. There is one video out there that exists of a recording of this ceremony. That's the good news. The bad news is that it was recorded by Alex Jones, who I fucking hate. I don't know if so I only watched the actual recording. I didn't watch the intro or any thought or opinion that he had because, again, a brain rot. So I don't know if he snuck in or what. I will say that it did look like he was hiding in the trees. And he did say during the recording that the angle was kind of weird because his phone was in his pocket. Also, this was recorded back in 2000 or 2001, so it's kind of grainy, but it was still an awesome video nonetheless. And it gave a lot of insight into this really bizarre ceremony. I took notes, so I'm going to go through my notes of my thoughts and some quotes while I was watching this video. So the wizard men bring what looks like a body wrapped up to the owl. It's apparently supposed to be a wrapped coffin effigy, whatever that means. So they bring this hopefully fake sacrifice to the giant 40-foot tall monster while this really weird music is playing in the background. There's some gongs being struck, and then a really weird speech was given. And here's a fun fact, for lack of a better term, about this speech. At some point, it was recorded by Walter Cronkite and used for years. Unclear what point it was used until. I don't know if it was still used today. I'm not even sure if they've had an encampment recently because I know they took a break with COVID, but everything about this just sounds like a really bizarre horror short story that somebody wrote like during a bad shrooms trip, honestly. It gets weirder and weirder. Imagine listening to Walter Cronkite's booming voice from a giant 40-foot concrete owl. All right, anyway, here is my transcript of the speech. The owl is in his leafy temple. Let all within the grove be reverent before him. Lift up your heads, O ye trees, and be lifted up ye everlasting spires. For behold, here is Bohemia's shrine, and holy are the pillars of this house. Gong. Weaving spiders, come not here. Gong, gong. Hail Bohemians with the ripple of waters, songs of birds, such music as inspires the sinking soul. Do we invite you to midsummer's joy? And then they go on saying things that seem like nice, peaceful thoughts. They babble on about Babylon. Do you see what I did there? And beauty everlasting. Then they talk a lot about nature, but they refer to her as if she's a living woman, and it's really awkward. Once the weird speech stops, there's really loud and creepy music that plays. It's almost like if you're watching a movie from the 1960s and someone is about to die or a fight is about to happen. And because this footage was filmed like 20 years ago and the footage isn't that great, it's kind of hard to tell exactly what's happening, but it looks like something drops at the altar. There's a ruckus going on in the center with music. So I think it might be that weird effigy. And then you hear Bohemians and priests. The desperate call of heavy heart is answered. By the power of your fellowship, dull care is slain. Dull care is apparently this effigy sacrifice fake person that gets slaughtered. So, you know. So yeah, everybody starts clapping. Everybody's really jovial and excited. And then the giant Walter Cronkite owl speaker then says, his body has been brought yonder to our funeral pyre to the joyous pipings of a funeral march. Our funeral pyre awaits the corpse of care. And then cue more weird music. There's weird cloaked wizard people with torches, and they take the hopefully fake body somewhere. And you can't really tell where Alex Jones narrates at this point, and I did cross-check it, and this is probably actually what happened also. But he states that this weird wizard dude with a skull face mask, like I saw in Late Night with the Devil, definitely biting off of some of the weird shit that goes down at Bohemian Grove. Anyway, so this weird skull face wizard dude brings this effigy body across the man-made lake in a boat at the end of the ceremony. I know that was a lot to take in. You may be wondering, Ashley, what the fuck does any of that mean? And to that, I say, I don't know. But to sum it up, we've got a hopefully fake dead person effigy that is placed on a ritualistic altar, which is at the base of this 40-foot Walter Cronkite owl and is burned and or sacrificed. The best part about this is, and it's not the best part because it's actually really scary, but I have to laugh at things like this. Otherwise, I will go into like a doom spiral. But this was the ceremony that opened up the encampment in the summer where the Manhattan Project was established. What? You may also be wondering, Ashley, why should we care if a bunch of elite, powerful, wealthy old men go camping for 2 weeks, get hammered in the middle of the woods? I'm glad you asked. This is my theory. We should care, because do we want big decisions to be made when a bunch of rich weirdos are getting fucking hammered and doing some weird rituals in front of a 40-foot tall concrete owl? Probably not. And throughout its history, Bohemian Grove has seen a range of significant figures, from U.S. presidents like Theodore Roosevelt and Nixon to, like I mentioned before, cultural icons like Mark Twain. The member list reads like a who's who of American power and influence in the 20th century, not even taking into account that there are a lot of foreign influential people that have been involved as well. And the allure and controversy of the Grove stem not just from this really exclusive membership list, but also from the rumors of significant political and business deals being brokered away from the public eye. This is extremely problematic because it includes policy planning and discussions that potentially have wide-reaching implications for American public and foreign policy. And let's get into some of the things that have allegedly happened there. For example, Dick Cheney, a former United States vice president and Secretary of Defense, is known to have spoken at the Grove discussing major defense problems of the 21st century during one of his visits in 1991. This, along with several other events, all took place during those daily lakeside talks I mentioned at 12:30. In 1967, Richard Nixon gave a speech outlining his foreign policy views, which he later referred to as a major stepping stone in his presidential campaign. In another notable event, Ronald Reagan, who is not known to be a good U.S. president in any capacity, reportedly received assurances from Nixon at the Lakeside Talk that Nixon would not challenge him for the Republican nomination. I mentioned the Manhattan Project earlier, but in September of 1942, key figures involved in what would become the Manhattan Project convened at the Grove. That meeting led to the planning and development of the atomic bomb. Unsurprisingly, the air of secrecy surrounding Bohemian Grove has made it a magnet for conspiracy theories. Some believe that it's a site for nefarious world government plans and elite policymaking. Others believe that there's something more darker and potentially satanic going on. I feel like people don't really understand what satanic means, so anytime there's any weird ritual, they just assume it's Satanism. The 40-foot tall concrete owl I mentioned earlier does not help the conspiracy theories. While the club states that it is a symbol of wisdom, which ties into their focus on fostering creativity and enlightenment between members, a lot of people think that the way that it's used in the ceremony is bizarre. It's accepting an effigy as a sacrifice, and so people think that it's definitely got a more darker meaning. In specific conspiracy circles, they feel that the owl connected to the Bohemian Club has deeper ties to a mystical or secretive power. They also suggest that it could represent Moloch, which is an ancient deity associated with the sacrifice of children, but this is actually a misinterpretation. Moloch was historically depicted as a bull and not an owl, so that conspiracy theory does not track. Google it, guys. Come on. Some other conspiracy theorists believe that this is all about surveillance and control, and the true purpose of these gatherings are just a way to test new forms of surveillance and social control. I'm guessing they probably think that Mark Zuckerberg came up with Facebook at this encampment then. Probably. There's another, I don't really think that this is a conspiracy theory because Nancy Pelosi makes less than $250,000 a year and her net worth is fucking insane. Like, absolutely insane. I know her husband owns a business, but she makes most of her money from trading. Do you really think Nancy Pelosi is sitting there like, I'm going to buy 10 stocks of GameStop and sell it when it's at its peak? No, she fucking doesn't. These politicians make money off of insider trading, obviously. That's the conspiracy, that it's networking opportunities and a means to get insider trading deals established. To me, that's not crazy. That probably happens anywhere where a bunch of rich or powerful people meet. It happened in Sex and the City. When Samantha was having sex with that trader, he gave her insider trading information. This is not really far-fetched or a conspiracy theory to me. It's very plausible. The occult theories do get dark. There are a lot of people that think that these mock human sacrifices could actually be real human sacrifices, and that these rich and powerful are actually performing these sacrifices to gain whatever it is they're trying to gain. And a big problem with this theory is that it's been amplified by figures in the conspiracy community who use decontextualized snippets of the ceremony to suggest that real violence is being disguised as theater. So it's a problem. Yes, the ceremony is really fucked up, but there's nothing to suggest that this is an actual person, especially a child being sacrificed. I can't say it's impossible, but it is highly unlikely. Nonetheless, the strict privacy policy, all of the effort that they put into keeping the activities and the members confidential, it all just feeds the speculation. especially when they're performing these weird symbolic rituals. So I get it. I get why people just let their minds fly, because this shit's weird. One thing that is true about the Grove is that it is not a fun place to work. They have these employees known as valets, and the camp valets are responsible for the operation of each individual camp. They also have service staff, which can include women. The woman's video that I saw on TikTok, she was obviously a service staff, but they are limited to just being there during the day and around the areas near the main gate. Male employees can be housed at the Grove, but they also have specific boundaries. There are workers that are considered to be high status, and those workers have private quarters. But the workers from valets to general staff, they get a really bad deal. There is absolutely nothing glamorous or cool about working at the Grove. People complain about having to work 16-hour days without breaks, but also having to wash by hand billionaires' underwear. I'd quit. It gets messier. Even the head valets, who are supposed to be the high status employees, are having difficulties. They are saying that they are clocking out way past their paid hours and they are underpaid, and allegedly they are cooking the books and just doing whatever they can do to maintain their wealth, like every rich person does. Now, this whole debacle was spotlighted in a class action lawsuit aiming for $1.5 million in damages for these workers. But guess what? The case was dismissed in January of this year for the employees allegedly not providing enough proof or information. I don't know. I'm one of those people where I need tangible evidence to believe something. But when you have that many people making the same complaint, chances are it's probably true. And there you have it. The Bohemian Grove, where the world's moguls play puppet masters, not in boardrooms, but beneath the ancient redwood trees. It's like summer camp for the 1% if summer camp involved plotting world domination and occult rituals instead of canoeing. Are they just power brokers in party hats, or is there something more sinister weaving through the smoke of their campfires? Either way, it's a reminder that sometimes the real monsters wear ties and toast to their secrets with champagne rather than blood. Well, as far as we know. If you want more of me and my pod, F that pod on Patreon. For every single episode, I archive a lot of my old episodes, so you get every single episode there. I release them early and ad-free, 0 ads. Baby girl's gotta make money, but there's no ads on Patreon. If you also liked what you heard, please like, review, subscribe.